just cheers myself since you're drinking water. This is okay. We're going to be on a plane together tomorrow where this is going to be an actual problem.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to Hypercritical, the podcast where two drunk people have opinions about
Who's drunk?
Where two opinionated people have lots of opinions.
That's not the tagline.
Welcome to Hypercritical, the podcast where two...
Entitled.
I thought we decided it wasn't entitled.
Privileged is what we didn't like.
Oh, yes. We're not privileged. Hi. Welcome to Hypercritical, the podcast where two entitled people have opinions about things.
I thought you were literally going to say, like, get the first part right and then totally change on the second half and be like, where two entitled people have drinks. Wait. Where two entitled people have cats.
Welcome to Hypercritical, the podcast where two cats...
have entitled people. 3 cats.
3 cats.
Have fleas. Let's not even. I find it uncomfortable and strange that I have a drink and you don't.
Well, we've already had 2.
It's Friday night and it has been a rough couple of weeks. So I don't want to hear it from you. I thought about at least attempting to make this into a cocktail. Like there's a Kir Royale, which is like a French aperitif.
Yeah.
But we have none of the variations of the thing that you have to add to the champagne. This is also Prosecco, not champagne. There's a whole thing. French 75 would involve adding gin, which I don't think I need more of.
Yeah.
So I'm drinking Prosecco.
Oh, cool. Just because of the disaster that was last week, I'm gonna double check everything really quick, especially
this literally happens. It's almost
know.
like it. I promise it's not a bit. It's not like a thing that we think is funny.
We talked about
to like kick off with. Like this is just a neuroses thing. What?
It's the same as the door handle thing. Like having to go back to the car and check the door handle. It's the same thing where I'm like...
Saying door handle like that indicates like when, I was driving like the Plymouth Neon in the early 2000s. What do you mean door handle? I know what you mean, but it sounds very like a car that you have to insert the key to lock the door on the handle. I know I'm right about this.
It's recording.
Yeah, I figured. Why are we having such a rough week? I mean, I would cheers, but, guess I'm just...
We cheersed enough tonight.
I don't really like your attitude.
All right. Hi. Welcome to...
Don't do the welcome again. Everyone has been welcomed and feels very welcome.
So what are you drinking?
A Prosecco.
Yeah, Prosecco. We already did that too. Thanks for joining us.
We're happy you're here with us, pleasant people.
Yeah.
Although if you listen to Hypercritical, I don't think you're expecting pleasant, happy people.
We're pleasant and happy. When are we ever negative? Well, like, we're negative. We're not negative. I wouldn't say we're negative.
No, we're not like cynical, negative people.
I think we're pleasant.
Did I say those words right? Thank you. Okay, I feel even better now. Those words in a row, I'm pretty confident I said them accurately, but the second they were out of my mouth, it was like...
You said cynical negative, and then I said...
No, say cynical negative people. I feel so much better right now.
Cynical negative people.
What's the reverse that your mind is trying to create?
I'm trying to say like single something.
Is your mind trying to say like singative, negative people?
Yeah, something like that.
Few things are funnier to me
than when you switch. Yeah.
I mean, like, it'll never not be funny to me, ever. Okay.
Give us an example of that.
I just did.
No, but like another practice.
What happened when we were... Oh, my God. One day we were working out, and I literally fell on the floor. I was face down on the dirty gym floor. I was laughing so hard.
It's just us.
Yeah, but still,
It's our garage gym.
Yeah. That's a good way to put that. Okay, so we were talking. Oh, I got it. Okay, so we were talking about Rocky, because this was like early days when we had the garage gym, and we were like, let's put on like action movies while we're working out. And of course, at first we were like, oh, we'll mute them and have music playing. But then we just started watching movies, and then of course both of us are like this in between sets.
It's been like 40.
And then we're
minutes.
like, wow. Anyway, back to my sets. Like,
anyway, we should watch another movie between the next two sets.
But I can't remember which scene, which Rocky movie, any of that. But I said, I find it so funny when Fakey Rock punches. I was trying to say Rocky fake punches. But when I said Fakey Rock punches, it's one of those things that, like, in the moment, nothing's funnier. So there's
Fakey
your
Rock
example.
Punches. Because you're switching letters around. Rocky fake punches. What we were talking about, where he's like,
where he goes, men love you, women love. That's Apollo.
That's Apollo. Yeah.
Still, that's the whole premise.
When they're like shadow boxing before to hype themselves up,
oh,
and you said instead of Rocky fake punches, you said fakey rock punches. Which
the shadow boxing thing, I feel like with Apollo and Rocky, it's more of just like hyping him up while they're like taping up, you know, all this stuff. But like it's in Creed where Rocky is hyping up Adonis.
Yeah.
And it's so like not excessive, but it's so highlighted. It's so like, and if you're just listening to this and not watching, you don't know what I'm doing right now, but just look at the scene and he's just like super intense and super slow motion. And I'm just like, how is that getting you hyped up for boxing where you have to punch how many times faster than this very slow? It's just weird to me.
I don't know. Man,
Creed, I'm just going to kick this off with Creed 3 was disappointing.
Yeah.
And I actually think I have two problems, and one's a quick problem, and then the other one is what we can really dive into.
I haven't thought about that movie since we watched it, so it's gonna take
that's a problem. Versus like when I saw No Time to Die, this is so classic of me. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be all over the place. When I saw No Time to Die in theaters, it sat with me and bothered me for days. Like that movie really affected me.
What was it? Oh, I don't know.
Because it's like the most heartbreaking Bond movie there is. The end, like, except for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But
at the end of like No Time to Die, because then like it wasn't. I mean, I thought it was a good movie.
No Time to Die is not a bad movie.
Give it shit because like, you know, there's a like you're, you know.
I was gonna say a lot of people, or my brother, the one person who has said something negative about this movie.
And I think your sister too, but.
No, I think he just said that they watched it together.
No, they were on the same page.
Oh.
They were like saying like, oh, we didn't like that.
Like they're a couple.
Yeah.
They are David and Alexis Rose, just if anyone's curious.
But, and like I heard some feedback, but like it wasn't a terrible movie. And like I think that they made the point that they needed to make. And like it was one of those where at the end you're like, okay, how can I justify what just happened and, you know, rewrite it in my head so that what happened didn't actually happen. But somehow he got, you know, it's like, at this point, there's no spoiling that movie, but I don't want to, you know, but like.
No, I think it's been like well over a year. I think everybody knows what happens. And if they don't, I'm sorry, it's been a while.
Right. But it's the same as like, not quite as bad because we recently watched Glass Onion.
Part 2 of the
Knives Out.
Yeah, but the first one's called Knives Out. The second one, but there's a common title across the two. What is it?
No idea.
Knives Out, Glass. Okay.
Producers, did you pop that up on the stream? On the screen? On the stream. I'm used to talking to my mods on my stream now. I'm affiliated. I'm affiliated now on Twitch, so my mods take care of a lot of that stuff for me. So. But
anyway,
we watched Glass Onion, and it was a really good movie.
We enjoyed it. And okay, here's the context. Typically, if it is 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
We started this movie probably at like
11. Maybe 10:30, 11.
It was fairly late, that we started it, and both of us were like, I don't want to stop watching this movie,
Yeah.
even though it's midnight.
Yeah, I kind of keep wanting
We
to
were
keep
like
watching.
committed.
It's like a murder mystery thing, and they're setting up, and like, you can't cut off. It's like when you're reading a good book, and you're like, if I just read one more chapter.
When's the last time you read a book?
I don't fucking know, Shannon.
No, I'm not like
how to
calling you
read.
out. I just like am very suddenly like, when have I seen Spencer reading
Probably
a book?
Dune. When I reread Dune, I listened to a lot of books for a while, but so was it not? Glass Onion was a really good movie until like the what do you call it? The crescendo, the
Climax.
climax. Yes, until the climax. Now, where are you going?
Is there anything plugged into the computer that's not being used?
No.
What about this thing?
Oh, that's the hard drive reader. We don't need that.
Okay, I need to plug my phone in. It's at 7%. Keep talking.
Okay, so Glass Onion was a good movie until the like climax in the last 25% of the movie, and then you're just like,
wait, are you including the climax as part of the good part of the movie, or where it goes south?
that's where it just turns 180. Like they set up all this stuff and they're like explaining all the characters and you're like all these motives and all this other, and like you expect something to happen or like some resolution to come, or like, he's the greatest inspector of all time and he's got something.
Inspector.
Yeah.
Like Inspector Gadget. You mean detective.
He's the greatest detective of all time and he's got something in his back pocket that he's going to like, oh, well, actually, here's this. And that's going to change it. But it, like, if you haven't seen the movie, sorry, but like at the end of the movie, spoiler warning is flashing on the screen right now. Go forward to when the spoiler warning ends. At the end of the movie, it's just like, oh, no, there's nothing we can do. We burned everything to the ground.
You described it really well as we were watching, or maybe when the movie was over and we were kind of like debriefing about like, this movie was so good. And then when things start to be revealed, you're like, oh, crazy. Yeah. It's her sister.
Yeah.
She's not dead, but she's dead. She's not dead.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Like that part had us like hooked. Like we were going to finish that movie, even if it meant staying up till 2:00 in the morning. But then once we finished the movie and we're looking back, you were like, well, it feels like they almost had it, but then they didn't know where to go from the pivots.
It's like the writer was like, I was holding off to try to figure out how to close this out, and I couldn't, so I just decided to set everything on fire.
To literally blow it all up.
Yeah. And then that's how we end it. And they get theirs because everything's burned to the ground. They don't have anything anymore. And like, there's no like, like I got you in the end. There's no like, oh, we, legally and, we solved the crime. Yeah. It's literally just like, oh, well, we burned everything you have down.
Well, most importantly, and again, this is something you pointed out after we watched it. Most importantly, in my opinion, there is no character redemption. Mm-hmm. The two people who are good the whole time are still, except for that random guy on the island who like never did anything wrong to anybody. But like, of course, part of me was like, is he someone to watch?
Yeah.
No.
And then, like, if he had shown up at the end and like been like, oh yeah, I knew all the time. Here's the evidence.
I wouldn't have been surprised if he had a part to play, but he didn't. But character redemption, there is none, because at the very end of the movie, all of them do the right thing suddenly, but only because there was really no harm that could be done to them at that point. Yeah. So they weren't doing the right thing because Miles, played by Edward Norton, had something over them. Mm-hmm. As soon as he didn't, they suddenly were like, oh, now I'll do the right thing. Yeah. So you're just like, okay, you're doing the right thing, but I still hate you and you still are a terrible person. So that was a little unfortunate.
Maybe that's the moral of the story, is that
True.
people are just terrible. But,
we have enough examples of that, so I don't need it in a movie that,
But that being said, we did, like, No Time to Die was where it's going with that. It was like kind of the opposite, where like you're just trying to create a justification, even though like they're like, well, it's over. You know what I mean? And then like you're like, well, maybe but maybe if he had, maybe.
But I think that like when, again, like you and I being people who have watched every Bond movie probably 5 or 6 times each at this point, not each, but like each movie we have seen 5 or 6 times. I think that the choices they made with No Time to Die more had to do with how do we close this Daniel Craig chapter
Yeah.
and move forward, which I actually don't love
Which is
because
interesting because they've never done that before.
I
They've
don't think
never
it's,
felt
and
the
I don't
need.
think it's necessary because it's like
Yeah.
this whole debate over like, is James Bond 007?
Yeah. Is
And
it a
James
code
Bond
name?
is like a code
Is it a
name,
code
and
name
it
or- yeah.
constantly is evolving and becoming someone new. And
But
then
I
like
guess-
everyone was up in arms over the black actress,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't care. She was cool.
Yeah,
It
and,
was
like,
fine.
They didn't, and like that's the thing. And on that argument, nobody ever called her James Bond.
Exactly.
They just gave his call sign
Right.
to her, and
Right.
so it's like, yeah, she's 007, but she's not James Bond. That's
So,
like
like,
saying
that-
like, you know, like there's a new president, and you're like, well, he's not really the president.
That's a good point,
You know,
right?
like,
Exactly. Or like
it's
even
a
like Doctor
title.
Who. Like
Yeah.
I didn't care about that. I just didn't feel that it
Doctor
was.
Who's different because that is the same entity. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's like literally the basis of
Yeah.
that show is regeneration
Right.
into a new body and persona.
And so with James Bond, it's like, well, it's like this is the first time they've had the need to close the story. And like, okay,
Which I
it's
don't know
over.
why they felt that need.
And
Is it because of Madeline and the daughter?
the only justification I can make for it is that they're like officially well past the source material. There's nothing to do but to restart or
But they can restart without him
entirely-
dying.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, if you're going to close the story, you might as well close it. You know what I mean? Like that does open them up to doing a full reboot where they start with Dr. No again. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, for a split second, I was like, we're not talking about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Dr. No, which is where the books start
Yeah.
with Blofeld.
Yeah. Well, is it Blofeld at that point? No.
Isn't Dr. No Blofeld?
No. It's another guy.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I can't remember who he
Is
is.
Blofeld Christoph Waltz? Yes, he's Blofeld.
Who?
Christoph Waltz
Yeah.
from
yes.
Skyfall, not Skyfall,
Yeah.
Spectre.
Yeah. In the previous movies, he's like, he shows up, the guy that is at the like top of the mountain with the like,
That's
Mind
On Her
Control.
Majesty's Secret
Yeah,
Service.
yeah.
I love that Bond movie.
and I think he might be in a couple previous ones, but
He is for sure
Uh,
because he is in the wheelchair and James drops him down
that's
an
the
air
last
shaft
time
thing.
you see him though.
That's after.
I'm just saying because that's the last time you see him.
Is that the
in
opening scene of the movie right after On Her Majesty's Secret
Maybe.
Service?
I don't know.
I wanna
We
rewatch
gotta-
Bond movies
we
so
gotta
bad
stop
right
because
now.
we're just making random allusions to things. But there's no like they could continue it, recast him, and write an entirely new script to a new movie, and like people don't really react to that too well. Or they could just reboot the entire thing, and they basically remake all the movies. You know what I mean? And so I think that's why they
I just
like,
don't.
ended it.
I see what you mean, and I don't disagree, but I still. Is that your phone?
Excuse me.
Shut up. That was your phone.
Yeah.
I still don't see how they couldn't achieve all of that without James Bond, the character, being killed.
They could, but I think it's like if they're gonna end it, they might as well just end it. You know, like do that story once and for all. You know what I mean?
I honestly think because of the Madeline factor and like truly being in love with a woman and misunderstanding this, alleged
Yeah.
betrayal. Because if a different woman he was involved with betrayed him, which plenty of them have before, it's different. But with
It's like
her,
the plot of every movie is
exactly right. But with
he
her,
or some woman betrays.
it was
the other,
different.
yeah. Or
And
both at the
they
same time.
have a kid together, and he's always been in love with her. So I guess closing for me, I think that's the key. Closing that out felt like his death was necessary versus him riding off into the sunset with his wife
Yeah.
and child. Like
Right.
that doesn't work for James Bond. So him dying to save them and everybody else. But man, okay, back to the point of all of this. That moment, like I have never been so like struck by something in a James Bond movie. And like a part of it is something we've also talked about, which has to do with the production of recent James Bond movies versus like in the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
which, they were great for their time periods, but given that it's, the 2020s.
They're set up to end with like him literally
but-
sailing into the sunset,
Literally.
on a raft, drinking champagne. With
But
a
even like
half-naked
the
woman. Like that's
the writing, the
yeah.
production value, the acting, like it's so much better now. It's higher quality, it's different, it's what we're used to, whatever. All those things combined for me to just be like, I cannot move on from this movie for a while.
Yeah.
And then like even Dune stuck with me for a while.
Yeah.
Like there's something about that storyline and everything.
Well,
So
it's a good story, and I've been trying to tell you this for
I know
decades, and finally a big budget movie comes out, and now you're
I
interested.
literally fully admit that regularly, including 30 seconds ago, where I was like, I care more about movies that have great production value. Although Gone with the Wind is my favorite movie of all time, always will be. And that was good production for the 1930s. But anyway, we were talking about
movies.
More specifically,
James Bond.
Creed 3.
Yeah.
So
we never closed that. Right.
many issues with this movie. Okay, so the first easy part, which I tried to start here because it's a quick thing to open and close. The other actor whose name I am suddenly forgetting was like charged with all of these like assault charges and sexual assault charges. So there's a small part of you, even subconsciously, that's kind of like, I don't want to watch this movie.
Oh yeah. What is it? He's the bad guy.
He like plays the childhood friend who comes back and wants to fight him.
And he's the new villain in the Marvel movies.
Creed 3.
But yeah, like right after that, he got charged with like assaulting somebody.
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah. Assaulting somebody in a club and all this other stuff.
So and I felt bad for Michael B. Jordan because it's his first, I think it was his
producing and directing it or something.
How do you say this? Directorial debut. Yeah. And it's like, now it's about that story and not.
You really couldn't just not done that.
It's the first time Rocky's not involved. Yeah. It's a big deal.
But yeah. And so like.
But I didn't love that movie. I wanted to.
I didn't like it either. And it just felt like so much of it was very forced. You know what I mean? And that's Rocky movies in general. But at the same time, like there are so many things where like, and then they got into like the very like artistic renditions of the fights. Where like suddenly
I forgot about that. Yeah,
they're in like all in their heads and stuff like that.
Like the stadium was suddenly dark and like the slow motion.
A big like gravestone pops up or whatever the fuck. And like,
well, like Michael B. Jordan, I think is a fantastic actor, and I think even a director. I think he's a strong director. Yeah. Tessa Thompson is amazing. I've never seen her in something and didn't completely love her. I didn't like that they were fully kind of in your face setting up. Oh, the next chapter of Creed is going to be his daughter. I'm like, I don't need that. And no one else is asking for it. I mean, honestly, I think wrap it up with Creed 3. Yeah. The Rocky saga is done.
They're going to do some other movie in the universe eventually. Yeah. Like, it's never going to end.
Yeah.
But movies. We're talking about movies, and we were talking about earlier how hypercritical itself started.
Right.
And it was, our second episode was a movie bracket. But our pilot episode that nobody's ever seen before is really just a recording on your phone, voice memo.
Yep.
Is what kicked it all off, where we're like, just drunk, doing a movie bracket, and we were like, we're funny.
Okay, so I think it's important now that we're on episode 16?
Yeah.
17, something like that?
Sweet 16.
Well, we just published 15.
Yeah, we're on 17.
We're on 17. Yeah. 16 is very exciting. And you know now what it is.
Yeah, if you're watching it, you already know.
Yeah.
The sequel to that will be coming out very soon.
Yep. Origins of hypercritical. I think it's time to talk about that. Mostly because I had dinner with one of my college friends a couple nights ago, and she was like, it had been a long time. So she's like, I want to hear all about the podcast. Like, what are you doing? How did it start? Why are you doing it? And I'm like, we don't know. Yeah. Whatever. I don't know. But here's the actual origin story, which goes back to summer 2022. I officially don't know what year it is.
Yeah. Was that a year ago? Was that last summer?
Well, hear me out.
Okay.
So last summer, okay. In 2022, I was in like year 4.
I see where you're going.
Yeah. Okay. Year 4 of my job, which honestly, until last summer, I loved that job.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that
I very rapidly nosedived.
Oh God. I mean, I am the type to commit to what I'm doing and I want it done right.
Yeah.
And I literally pretty much my entire working adult life have had a job where I worked well beyond the like quote 40 hours. Boring.
Can we talk about movies again? Or
I mean, I'm getting there.
just kidding.
So very suddenly, just a lot shifted at work, like in the probably late spring, early summer 2022. And very suddenly I was just like, this is a whole new ball game. I'm going to try really hard to make this work. I have a good attitude. And that lasted like 6 hours.
And it was also like that year or for a year at that point, it was like we were for the first time, like we've always done work together. Like we've always found ways to like collaborate.
Back to like 2016.
On like projects that we were working on or work or whatever. Like, you know, even going back to when I was in school, like even as an undergraduate, like you would come help me with stuff at like galleries and whatnot. So like we've always been collaborative in that sense, you know? But this was the first time, summer of 2021. Yes.
Oh,
when we like officially worked for the same employer.
Oh,
so like we were like
when you were suddenly like salaried employee at the same company, but in a different department.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like we very officially worked together. We knew all the shit that was going on.
Yeah.
You know, our corporate life and our personal life was fully intertwined.
It was all one and the same. And I remember at one point around this time, I saw something online that was like, make sure that every month, if you have a spouse or like a serious partner, you do like a life update dinner where like you sit and you talk about your goals and where you are and like what you're excited about, what you're challenged by. I was like, once a month?
Like, we do that at least twice a day.
We literally have like coffee every morning where it's like, don't be on your phone. Like, let's talk about our days. And then it was like maybe a break in the afternoon and take a walk. And then like dinner time or like cocktail time. I was like, once a month? Are you crazy?
I think too that like just goes back to the fact that like we're both fully invested in what the other person is doing.
Right.
And like we're in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're, you know, trying to brainstorm how to get through stuff or solve things or whatever. And it's not like, oh, I don't even know what she's doing. You know, like
I don't know what she does for work. It's like, there are days where you probably wish that was the case, but like,
oh yeah.
Okay. Well, hilarious. Anyway, so spring last year, everything kind of started to shift, and I'm pretty perceptive with like people and situations. And I was just like, this is over. Like, this is the beginning of the end. Yeah. People joke about like, I'm seriously going to quit my job. And I was like, this is actually going to be it for me soon. And so
I was like, maybe you don't, maybe it's not.
No, because the situation we realized was we were both full-time employees at the same company that was still basically a startup. So we were like, this is a bad idea.
We did very suddenly realize like we need to diversify.
Yeah, this is not good.
You know? Yeah.
Right. So things took an even more significant turn when I suddenly started reporting to a different manager. Yeah. And I'm not even really going to go into the details, but it only took a couple of weeks before I was like, I've never been so miserable in a job before, and I have to leave immediately. Yeah. I don't have the support of the CEO anymore, and this manager is a nightmare, and I'm just not happy, and I'm not willing anymore to put in 70-hour work weeks and every, like, you know.
Especially when it's not 70 hours of you trying to, like, create a great product. It's literally 68 hours of you trying to explain the decisions you've made. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and it became bureaucratic, and it just became difficult to navigate. Like, there were a lot of people trying, and everybody was literally just fighting for like their little corner of the business. And everybody felt this way, where it was just like, I don't actually feel like I'm creating anything cool anymore. All I'm doing is dealing with like politics, and I'm in meetings all day, and like I literally might as well have left Zoom open all day. Yeah. So I just was exhausted, and I was like, you know what? This is no longer what I want to do. And actually, our plan was for you to leave. Yeah. Actually, no. I think the plan was for me to leave first. Yeah. Figure out whatever came after that.
And I was like, well, I'll just see how long I can last here. But then, very fortunately, before you even started to leave, somebody called me and was like,
"Do you want a job?"
And I was like, "Absolutely."
Fuck yeah. Yeah. That was great. But then I think, that was definitely like, okay, great, check. Yeah. But anyway, in that, there was like a few month period there where I was so unhappy, and I would have days where like I would hit like end meeting in Zoom, and I would just sit at my desk and like start crying, which like I don't cry at work. I'm not one of those people. I never have been, but this was really starting to affect me. And I remember one night I like hung up, and I think I stopped even using AirPods just because I was so lazy with like meeting connect. I was just like, I'm going to yell at my computer. And I remember I finished a call, and I literally was like at my desk with my head in my hands, and you walked in really quietly, and you go, do you want me to get your chair? I was like, yeah. And that meant bring this chair out to this like common area that we have, and like that's where we'd have a drink.
We only have 2 chairs, so if we want to have a drink in a certain area, we'd have to move the furniture around so that we could.
Upstairs, that is what that's like. So yeah, that was code for, do you want to have a drink and talk about it? And it quickly turned into like literally whiteboarding. We have this little whiteboard, and it was just like, what's the idea? What's the business? What's the plan? And it turned into drinking and planning almost every night.
Yeah.
And then some nights we would just be talking about like plans for the future, the house, the like travel we wanted to do, whatever. But you know, you have 2 or 3 drinks and things start to become really funny and entertaining. And we're like, this would be really funny if we recorded it, you know? And then fast forward to one night, you were like, I remember walking upstairs with drinks and you go, I have a game for us.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you don't want to play. We have like Scrabble and Monopoly and cards, and you never want to play any of them. So I'm like, what do you mean you have a game? And you said, I don't remember even how, maybe you remember how, but like you had some online bracket game that was like one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
And it was like the most fun we had in a while because we weren't bitching about the work situation.
We weren't complaining. We were just like purely nostalgia trip, whatever, talking about random shit.
Which was so fun.
Yeah.
Because like every third song that would play, we both would be like, no, this is not a one-hit wonder. Like Bittersweet Symphony is a one-hit wonder. Are you kidding me? But then, you get taken back to like, oh, I remember this song in high school. And like, I would like, when it came on the radio, because that was the only way to hear said song.
Right.
But then when we were done with that bracket, it was, we're on like drink number 3 and we're just like, it's so fun. Let's do another one.
Oh, yeah. Was that both in one night?
Yeah.
Shit.
Because if you listen, okay, so then I just started doing a voice memo. I didn't even tell you. I just started recording us because I thought it would be funny. And listening back to it, the second you hear our voices, you're like, wow, they're drunk.
They're really drunk.
They're pretty drunk. But we sent it to a couple of people, and both of them were like, one friend of mine who had been kind of pushing us to do like a couples podcast for a while. He goes, oh, you so fucked up just now. This is your first episode of your couples podcast. And I was like, well, no, but now maybe we'll take it seriously and actually start just recording it and see what happens. Someday we'll publicize that to a select group, I think.
It's like a recording on your phone that's next to you. So like I'm in the background.
Yeah, it's really not high quality.
The quality's not great, but it's also
pretty
like
funny.
Not high quality
people
at the moment. But yeah, and then from there, I think I had always had like, by that point, I was enamored with the idea of podcasting.
Oh yeah, you were definitely like ready to start something. We just didn't know what it would be. And then we started recording and we had a different name, but then we were talking about what it actually is, and then Hypercritical just came out of there.
And like even like podcast, like that was around the time in that probably 2022, maybe early 2021, where I really started to like follow a certain like number of podcasts and like really was starting to watch like regularly while I was working, like not pulling up a YouTube video or putting on music, but I would like pull up Twitch and like watch and that's actually where the bracket came from.
Twitch.tv.com/Hegmo.
Twitch.tv.com/Hegmo. Actually, not .com. You messed it up.
I said Twitch.tv.
Twitch.tv/Hegmo. It's
what did I say?
You said Twitch.tv.com.
Oh, Twitch.tv.
Twitch.tv/Hegmo. Yeah.
You're welcome for the plug.
We're affiliated now.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. If you actually ever join the stream, I could maybe make you a mod, but
I mean, I'm sorry if I'm like trying to launch a business every single night.
But I like started watching streamers and started watching a lot of podcast stuff, and I was like, we have to figure this out. And like, not that we're successful in it at this point. We're talking like, oh, when we first started, and now we're a huge success. But it was really just like, we were looking for like an excuse to do it in a way. Like we talked about it for a long time and like, oh, we just need to figure out what the thing is. And then suddenly we were like, just start, and I think that's with a lot of things, like, with working out, we've talked about working out and with streaming, with podcasting, and it's just like, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to find the thing. And we probably still haven't found the
No.
thing. Yeah.
Everyone listening to this knows that we're talking about nothing.
Yeah.
But we are inspired by Seinfeld. So.
Yeah. We haven't found the thing. It may or may not go anywhere, but like just doing it, and like it'll just open up another, and like podcasting, we did podcasts for a few months, and then suddenly I was like, well, I have a microphone, I'm comfortable talking for a duration of time.
Aren't
now.
these all my microphones?
No, one of them is mine.
Interesting.
We have microphones. I'm comfortable like talking in front of a camera now. Like maybe I will start streaming, and like that's going slowly but relatively well. Like I have like people that log in and follow me, and
it's consistent.
React, and for some reason like subscribe with money. It's just like, what is wrong? What, are you guys okay? Like
don't question it.
But yeah, it's been fun, and like. We just, at that point when we started, because that was summer 2022, and then we didn't get our first, like I got one of these microphones for the first time when I had to record the rebrand statement for my current job.
Oh my God, we have to share the blooper reel.
The blooper reel.
That's
funny. That's another one for the Patreon archives.
That's a really good one.
And that's like the first time me ever talking into a microphone and recording myself.
The voice memo from that night with the bracket was November 2022. And then remember
this
when
was probably December,
we shared the blooper reel with my friends at work when we did the happy hour departure thing. And that was definitely mid-December. Yeah,
mid-December. And I just recorded it. And it's just like, I could not get 3 words out without fucking up.
Y'all, it's so funny. I can't wait to share some of that. He goes, hi, hello, hi. Anyway, okay, start over. Okay, hi. Which...
And now, look how much
he is so talented now.
I'm like...
Okay, this reminds me of... when I first started having more of like an on-stage presence at conferences that I was producing, and I wanted to fucking kill you, and I still do because it's not funny. Imagine that you were trying to like, what are you doing? You're just checking Discord. Wow. I mean,
my followers might need me.
Oh my God. These followers need you. No. Okay. Imagine you're hyping yourself up and you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be on camera. I'm going to be on stage in front of hundreds of people. Like the conference I was producing at the time, literally like hundreds and hundreds of people. Yeah. It was not a small audience. Plus, it was being live streamed at that point. So we're talking even more people.
And so, an asshole. I would just channel like your...
No, like I'm trying to like prep for like, I am the first person who is going to walk on stage and welcome all these people. So he'd go, hi.
I mean, like,
I'm Shannon. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Why are you making a joke?
Like, just channel like, dude, like you're doing the like the annual Apple. Hi, I'm Shannon, and I'd like to welcome you.
Don't say
to our new conference. And I would do that every day, basically.
And then inevitably, I'm like, put it out of your mind. Don't think about it. Just walk on stage, be you, blah blah blah. And then I walk on stage and I'm like, hi. And we have notes on my
so many exciting things planned for you today.
Hi. Okay, we're gonna share your bloopers because those are hysterical. But yeah, that was December, and then we started recording.
Yeah, and then
God, when did we start recording?
We got by January you had started your business officially, and you were going to your first event. And we were like, well, you should get a camera. It's going to be much cheaper for us to buy a camera.
Too bad we didn't have it in February. It was necessary in Miami.
It'll be much cheaper for you to buy a camera than it will be for you to hire a photographer every time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so we ordered the camera. You literally left. You were going to the event.
You're reminding me of something I had forgotten, and I'm so annoyed now.
You're going to the event. And we're like, well, it hasn't gotten here. There's no point in stressing out. It hasn't been delivered. I'm just going to go to the airport. And literally, like, you drove away. The car picked you up. You drove away. and like 3 minutes pass, and like the UPS truck pulls
Do you
up.
know what's even
and
more
then your
annoying?
flight was delayed.
My flight was delayed, but what's even more annoying on top of that, believe it or not, there's another layer here. I wasn't going to the event yet.
You were going early. That's right. So the whole thing was obnoxious. But of course, like it shows up.
You know who you are.
Yeah. It shows up. I'm like, you just missed it.
It was literally like 5:03
Yeah.
and I left at like 4:55 or something.
And it was like, it's fine, whatever. And so I was like, well, might as well set this up on my computer. And
Oh my God, you were so excited. Secretly, you're like, oh, darn, we need this for work.
Yeah. And now every time you need it for work, I'm like, but my camera.
And if I need 3 microphones or something, you're like, but
my microphone.
I need my microphone.
The stream really does make more money than anything else right now.
No, we know what makes the most money. Thanks, Alex. Okay.
So from there, it was just like we started justifying, let's slowly buy the equipment. And like you needed it for your business. And we're like, well, we can.
But we're also both collectively, Lucille Bluth, wink. We're both collectively the type to do something once we can do it right.
Yeah.
So like Collective has a podcast now, and it's only because we've recorded multiple podcasts at 2 different events where we had like a producer and the microphones and a high quality camera. Like we were never going to be like, oh, let's just start a podcast and we'll just do Zoom calls. So I think in part we weren't going to do this until we had the right equipment. It's so funny.
I was on a call a few months ago with somebody, and they were like noticed. They're like, "Oh man, your camera and your microphone are really good quality. Like, that's awesome." And I was like, "Yeah. I mean, I've been doing like a podcast thing and like streaming and stuff." And they're like, "Oh, that's so cool." And I was like, "I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want you to watch it."
We don't want anyone to see this.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm thinking about doing a podcast too." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool." And he's like, "I'll hit you up and I'll ask you about like what equipment you use."
You're like, "Oh no, I don't actually have a podcast."
And they're like, "I'll ask you what equipment you use." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll send you all the links." And like I said, like, it's like, here's the $400 microphones and the $100 mic boom arms and the
you sure about that?
The like $300 audio interface and all this other stuff. And he's like, I was just gonna get these $50 microphones. I was like, oh, sorry. I thought we were going. Okay, never mind.
You did ask me what I'm using,
but like, I can only go 100% on.
That is 100% you. Like that makes total sense. All right, so in the spirit of the origins of Hypercritical, we have
time to do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're faster than we used to be, and then some of these are just stupid. Okay, best movies.
Okay, best movies. We're doing a bracket type thing.
First one is just ridiculous.
Okay, ready.
Forrest Gump versus Gone Girl.
Forrest Gump is a better movie.
Obviously, Forrest Gump's a better. And I think Gone Girl is a very good. It's based on a book. The book is really good. Great actors, great plot. Forrest Gump is a much better movie.
Yep.
28 Days Later or It's a Wonderful Life. I never actually saw It's a Wonderful Life.
Let me see it.
It's a Wonderful Life is that like black and white Christmas movie where there's like a bank run and every time a bell rings.
You haven't seen that?
No.
I feel like you watched it. Maybe you were having Christmas drinks at the time.
I am the type to at Christmas I watch every Okay, there is one black and white Christmas movie that I watch every year and it's Miracle on 34th Street. It is not It's a Wonderful Life.
28 Days Later is a pretty good movie though. Like I remember watching that as a younger kid.
It's Cillian Murphy, right?
And I was like, well, this actually wasn't like, classic zombie movie. I was like suddenly like, oh, there's like a story here, and it's kind of
it definitely. I agree. It's a good movie, and like honestly, it's one of those movies that you're like, I don't know. It's already kind of become like a classic.
Yeah.
It's not that recent.
No, it's old.
Yeah, but like it's also got Cillian Murphy, so it's not that old.
2000s or.
I feel like we're leaning towards 28 Days Later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you haven't seen the movie, you have to go with
Oh, God, here we go. There is a moment of contention in the voice memo about this movie.
Okay.
Requiem for a Dream
Okay.
or American Beauty.
Still haven't seen that either. So it's all,
You haven't seen American Beauty?
It's all on you.
Whoa. I got to say American Beauty.
Okay.
You haven't seen that movie?
No.
You need to watch it.
I don't even know what it's about.
It's a good cast. It's Kevin Spacey, who I'm really sorry. This is potentially non-PC, but there are two people who got caught up in Me Too. And if the context online around what happened is at all true, I don't think either one of them is getting a fair shake.
Yeah.
And I think it's Kevin Spacey, and I think it's Aziz Ansari.
Yeah. Kevin Spacey didn't this week. He got cleared of all
the UK courts were like, no.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was only in the UK that there were allegations, but
he was going to the final season of House of Cards.
His career was completely destroyed.
We shouldn't get into Me Too stuff, but that was the biggest.
I don't want to. Yeah.
That was the biggest thing where you start to see somebody like Aziz Ansari who's suddenly got all this popularity, and I'm not saying that people who are doing popular things are immune to stuff, but it's when they're going into a new season or they're in a peak show and suddenly somebody comes out with something.
I think that's a fair statement.
It's do we go public with this right now, or should we do the trial first before
well, and I also don't want to get into this, but I feel like the context around Aziz Ansari's sounded very much like a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Completely.
And nobody was in the cab or whatever with them, and you can't say for sure. But
his is he's basically done too.
Yeah.
Have you heard from him?
Well, both those shows went on to do a
and they shouldn't have
season that nobody watched because it wasn't using the cast that they started with. But anyway. Yeah,
I have more to say, but I'm not gonna keep going. American Beauty is one of those movies that it's just like Requiem. It stands out. It is unlike any other movie I can think of. And it's tragic, but it's got this artistic element to it, but it's watchable. Requiem is a painful movie to watch.
Yeah.
I would watch American Beauty multiple times, which is always a metric for me personally.
A better movie?
It's always a metric for me personally if I choose to watch the movie more than once.
Yeah.
So I would say American Beauty.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
It's got a belly button on the thing, so that's got to be worth something.
It's a belly button with a rose. It's a whole thing. The Shining or Taxi Driver. I hate to admit that I've also never seen Taxi Driver.
I haven't seen Taxi Driver either.
Apparently it's pretty dark, but not in the same way The Shining is dark.
The Shining's a good movie and cinematically really good.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those where you watch it and you're it's it is, and it's Stephen King, right?
Yeah.
To the max, and Stanley Kubrick to the max.
Which is a fucking amazing combination when you think about it.
And I wouldn't put, and this is just my bias, I wouldn't put any Stephen King thing as the best of all time. I think he writes interesting stuff, but it's not it's always it's kind of got a nerdy campiness to it.
That's Stephen King though, right?
Veiled in artistry. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
But is it veiled in artistry because of Kubrick? Not Stephen King.
A little bit of both, I think.
I think it's more Kubrick, but point taken.
In The Shining, definitely more Kubrick, because you see a lot of Stanley Kubrick coming through in The Shining.
I also think that The Shining is kind of I remember growing up asking my mom, what's the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Yeah.
And my family is not a scary movie family. And she was like, The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Hands down, scariest. And some people say that now after having seen more modern.
We watched it a few years ago.
It's a pretty scary movie.
It's pretty scary, but it's also
it's easy to laugh at it.
I think any of the classic old school horror movies, what's a Freddy Krueger?
Nightmare on Elm Street actually kind of scared me.
Because it's dream shit, and then you go to sleep and you're
Halloween and Friday the 13th, those you can laugh at. And just like American Horror Story, the anthology in recent years, those you can laugh at those.
Yeah, a lot of them though, and it's because it's dated and you're oh, haha, I can see and we're also watching it in high definition, the way that it was never meant to be actually watched.
Fair enough. Yeah, you almost want to buy an old TV set to watch these movies, and Poltergeist should be watched on an old movie or old TV.
And so it's easy to laugh at them, but at the same time they're it's a little scary, but it's not we've just been exposed to a lot more.
But I guess I mentioned that because I think The Shining in its heyday, compared to the other movies that were out, was probably like a standout, exceptional movie.
I mean, there's some stuff in The Shining and it's very, because it is Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick, and very like psychologically disturbing.
So I think is Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
But it's hard because I just feel like maybe we should make a rule when we do brackets. We almost kind of have to just vote for the one that we know. Yeah. Which feels a little unfair, but I also feel like it's less fair.
If you think Taxi Driver is a better movie, tell us down in the comments what you think.
The internet says, suffering from insomnia, disturbed loner Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro. Oh, and I do love Robert De Niro. Takes a job as a New York City cabbie, haunting the streets nightly, growing increasingly detached from reality as he dreams of cleaning up the filthy city. It feels like... Yeah. Okay, let's go for The Shining. But yeah, I do want to hear from people. If we have made a huge mistake just now, let us know. Ooh, speaking of psychological thrillers and confusing movies.
Day. No, just kidding.
No, American Psycho versus Groundhog Day.
Oh, really? Groundhog Day is actually, I could only see like the angle.
Yeah, it is Groundhog Day.
I mean, Groundhog Day is a good movie. I love that movie.
It's so good.
It's a really good movie.
It's Bill Murray, but like you never saw American Psycho, did you?
No.
Dang. Okay, we have some things to rectify here.
One, right?
Yes, and yes, the business cards are so glorious because I remember watching that as a teenager, which is one of those things that like it's a mistake. Yeah. I haven't really watched it since I was a teenager. You need to watch it as an adult. But it's just funny looking back on that scene with the business cards where they're having this like dick measuring contest around their business cards. Yeah. And they're all the same. Yeah. But if you care about the detail, and you do, you would be like, oh, well, I mean, a D boss versus the NIM boss. And then, you know, like if it's duplexed versus... Yeah. I've learned enough from you to know the difference here, but it's comical to me, like looking back at that scene, and now as an adult, I'm like, I totally get it.
It is funny, like when I have to make business cards for somebody, and like they're like, oh, just do the regular cheap ones, and I'm like,
I can't actually do that for you.
Sure, okay,
right. But we should watch it sometime. What I love about American Psycho is it's one of those movies. It's actually kind of like Total Recall, which we did talk about recently, but no one will ever.
Oh yeah, because we have.
Did you save the audio?
We have the audio for it.
Okay.
So that could be a Patreon episode down the line too.
Yeah. But anyway, we talked a lot about Total Recall. You reach the end of the movie and you're like, wait, did it happen or not?
Real or is it not?
So American Psycho, it's actually the same thing. You get to the end and you're like, is he just so bored with his horrible corporate, like borderline Japanese salaryman lifestyle that he just invented this whole other world where he's basically butchering people, which is disgusting. But I'm going to go Groundhog Day. Okay. After all that. Yeah. Because I love that movie so much.
Groundhog Day is good. And it's a really good movie. It sticks in your head and like,
Blade Runner, what's the number? 2045?
2049?
2049.
That's the sequel.
Or Shaun of the Dead.
I'm Shaun of the Dead.
Really? Over Blade Runner?
Yeah, Blade Runner, the original is like a classic. Yeah. The sequel's good, but Shaun of the Dead is just like peak. What's his name? What's the...
I always forget.
Hot Fuzz and all those movies. That's just like a fucking classic movie. And it's such a great... It's a great zombie movie while also being a great spoof on zombie movies.
That's true. Who's he's the stepdad. Bill Nighy's in it. Yeah. His character is so ridiculous.
Yeah. And Hot Fuzz is a fucking great movie too.
I had accidentally turned on the dictate.
So I mean, all their movies are good.
Simon Pegg.
Yeah, Simon Pegg and Nicholas Frost. Is that his name?
Nick Frost. Yeah. So funny. Hot Fuzz is a good movie too. I always remember from Hot Fuzz, like the opening scene, it's like, it's not called an accident, it's called a collision. Because an accident indicates that
nobody's at fault.
Nobody's at fault. And it's like, okay, Shaun of the Dead. 7 or Django?
Django's really good.
I love Django.
Instinct on Django.
7 is obviously like a highly referenced movie. I just saw something recently. Someone passed on that role.
Oh, really?
Maybe Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
No, Morgan Freeman's in it. Sorry.
Well, that's the other thing we won't talk about is talking about people that didn't get roles. But in our teaser episode, that if enough people sign up for Patreon, we'll release the audio for the Lost episode 15.5.
Who's Denzel?
Terminator.
Oh, yeah, I forgot we talked about that.
Terminator was originally supposed to be, what's his name?
O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be Kyle, whatever his name was.
Oh my God, I still exactly the problem.
Yeah,
if Arnold had taken that role.
Pivotal character, but he's not as iconic as the Terminator. But
I think
stop looking up recent news about
I'm sorry. I think that it was maybe Denzel Washington. He passed on being in Seven, and it was something like I'll find it, and maybe we'll include it or we'll post it on Instagram. But it was so great because apparently when the movie came out, he was like, "Oh man, I shouldn't have said no to that." Yeah.
I think there's a lot of those where like people. I think that's a pretty common like interview question where the interviewer is like, "What's a big role that you passed on that you wish you'd taken?" But
this is the thing that always like messes with my head.
Yeah.
Because what's your immediate reaction? Oh, well, it couldn't be anybody but Morgan Freeman.
Right.
And it's like, you're only saying that because you saw Morgan Freeman.
Exactly. And I think that like, a lot of people, then there's a way to spin that answer in that like, somebody's like, oh man, I would have loved to play that character, especially having seen the movie after it came out. And like, I could definitely see myself in the role, but like, I'm glad I didn't take it because the person who did such a good job.
Exactly. But it's like,
but who's just like this, it's
like apparently Gal Gadot was originally like the top contender for Barbie.
Oh, really?
And now it's like, I haven't seen the movie yet, but based on the trailers and everything, like Margot Robbie looks perfect for it. But if we had never known that and it was reversed, you'd be like, oh, Gal Gadot is perfect. Okay. I never saw this movie either. And it always weirded me out how intense Edward Norton seems to be in this movie, American History X.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a movie that someone described a specific scene to me when I was like in high school, and I've been so grossed out by it ever since that I'm like, I can't watch this movie ever. Have you seen it?
I think that's one that I've seen clips of, and people have described scenes from it. And
like
I'm
the curb,
like,
the curb thing.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't really want to watch that.
Especially now that I'm like in my 30s, I'm like, I don't ever need to. Yeah. I choose not to subject myself to things like that.
It's one of those movies that's like, it falls in the same category, I feel like, as American Psycho or as Fight Club even, where
this is worse to me.
In like high school, people are like, oh yeah, I love that movie because it's like edgy and like dark.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like, you really love it?
Okay, I'm sorry, but this is like people that say they love Donnie Darko. I'm like, because you're such a tortured soul and you, like, I don't get that movie. I'm sorry. I'm sure
I watched it at one point and I feel like I was just like, cool.
I'm sure there are a lot of reasons for it to be considered like a creative, interesting movie, but people that just like, I remember that movie ending and I was just like, ugh, just wasted like 2 hours of my life.
Crash or whatever.
I don't understand that movie. Okay, it's American History X versus The Hateful Eight, which I love.
The Hateful Eight is such a good movie.
So much.
I would go for Hateful Eight.
Yeah, God, it's so good.
There's so many good moments, and like the fact that it's all, except for like the very intro and the very end, it's all in this one fucking cabin.
Yeah.
And like,
you got to use 2 nails or whatever. It's so close. God damn it. Remember watching that in that one scene? I started laughing so hard. I had to pause it, back it up, and record the clip. Now, God damn it.
Yeah.
Just to send it to my brother.
That's every movie that we watch.
This was an exception, though. I mean, this was like, even you were like, David will love this. Mm-hmm. Okay. Unbreakable versus Memento. I have seen neither of these movies.
I've seen both of them. Unbreakable a long time. I think Memento is
What's Unbreakable about?
Unbreakable is the one with Bruce Willis where he's
and Samuel L. Jackson?
And Samuel L. Jackson where he's like literally, it's like a weird kind of
maybe
dark
I have seen that
hero movie.
I think I have seen that.
And then they made a sequel to it that was called Glass, which is Samuel Jackson's character.
I would guess Memento.
I think Memento. That's like a classic. Like,
is that Christopher Nolan?
Maybe I can't remember.
I think it might be. The Truman Show or Prisoners.
I don't know what Prisoners is.
I don't know Prisoners. Looks like Hugh Jackman and.
Are we still on the first half of the bracket? You said we're going to be so
This
fast.
is actually okay. We need to get fast. Okay, Truman Show. It's longer than I thought. Leon. Oh, that's like one of the first movies that Natalie Portman ever did.
Oh yeah, Leon the Professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Raging Bull, which I never saw.
Leon the Professional's got like a weird cult. It's Rene. What's his name?
I can picture him.
French actor.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. I would go with the
Jean Rene. Wait, maybe that's it. And then Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Okay. We should watch Raging Bull sometime, though. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade or Jurassic Park?
Last Crusade.
Definitely. I was like watching you like, come on,
Don't fail me now.
Home Alone or School of Rock? School of Rock was such a good movie, but it's Home Alone.
Home Alone is just like the first one. It goes downhill in the second one pretty quickly, even though that it's got like some classic scenes in it.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But Home Alone, the first one is like,
yeah, it's hard to beat.
yeah.
Reservoir Dogs or The Prestige?
The Prestige is really good.
I love The Prestige.
I'm going with The Prestige on that, no question. I love that movie.
Yeah.
That and
The Illusionist.
Like,
they're so different, but they're like
when
basically
you had
the same
your
movie.
wisdom teeth taken out and you're at your mom. Like we watched both those movies, and like I love that both of those movies are so good.
Me too. What about Bob? Which I only saw like a scene growing up, and it made me so stressed out. I was like, I fucking hate this movie. Or The Deer Hunter.
I don't know if I've seen either of those.
It's Robert De Niro. And Robert De Niro apparently has a lot of movies from when he was young that we just like don't know.
He was an actor before he got old, I guess. You just picked one.
I'm just gonna. Okay.
Are we still on the same side of the bracket?
I think it's like. Yeah.
Shit, how many movies are in this? We're in
Okay, speed round. Forrest Gump, 28 Days Later.
Oh, we were doing reviews then.
Yeah.
They're so different.
I'm going Forrest Gump.
As a better movie, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
American Beauty, The Shining.
Shining. It's faster on the second.
Groundhog Day, Shaun of the Dead.
Ooh, Shaun of the Dead.
Mine's Groundhog Day.
Shaun of the Dead. Are we gonna debate or are we gonna rock, paper, scissors? What is that? 1, 2, 3, go?
I go on 3.
Okay, 1, 2, go.
Yeah. Rock, paper, scissors.
Cheater.
I didn't cheat.
Just guys, if you would remember.
Django. Oh shit.
Remember that Shaun of the Dead won that one.
Django, Hateful Eight.
Keep it down.
Are you hearing me?
Oh shit, Django.
Yeah. Hateful Eight.
I think I would go for Hateful Eight too.
Hateful Eight's so
Django's really
good.
Django's really good, and Christoph Waltz is so good in it. And like I love that progression of him in Inglourious Bastards, and like almost like talking to Quentin Tarantino and be like, I will be the terrible Nazi commander if you make me.
I feel like there was a package deal. Like, I'm going to do this for you.
In the next movie, you make me this character.
Yes,
Then, like,
totally agree.
Sure. If you let me redeem myself, then I will do whatever you want.
Sorry, I know that we're trying to move quickly here, but like, I love that Christoph Waltz has so successfully been the villain and the good guy.
Yeah.
That's not easy for actors. They tend to be like, you know what? I'm going to be on this side of the line or the other. Okay, this is interesting because they're both about like distorted reality. Memento or Truman Show?
Probably Memento is like a good movie.
Even though I haven't seen it, I feel like Memento is the way to go. Okay. Leon, the Professional, right?
Yeah.
Or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Better movie, Leon.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to trust you because I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Indiana Jones and the Last. I mean, it's a campy act, like 80s adventure movie.
Sean Connery.
And that makes it even more campy. You know, like yes, it's a classic, but I think that Leon the Professional is like I
need to watch that movie.
Before either of those actors were like established, doing like kind of a cool. Yeah.
So this happens every time we do a movie bracket, but I'm like, I need to add to my list all of these movies. Like there are a lot of movies I need to watch. Okay, this one's easy. Home Alone, The Prestige.
Prestige is a better movie. Yeah.
Especially, God, The Prestige is on my list of movies of like, I wish I could watch it for the first time again.
Yeah.
Because like when you haven't seen it yet.
And The Illusionist. They're both the same.
The Illusionist is so.
Because like you don't know.
But like in such a different way.
Yeah. And they, in the way that The Glass Onion does not, like they lead you along this path. And like a fucking magic trick, both of them are like, and you're like,
what?
What?
Yeah. Oh my God. And one of my favorite things is watching movies like that with someone who hasn't seen it yet. And you're like this the whole time.
Don't stop looking at your phone. You got to pay attention to this part.
Okay. The Deer Hunter or Zodiac?
Did we even do Zodiac?
I just chose it.
I can't pick one.
I just had to move. Okay.
You guys pick. Which one's your favorite?
We'll wait. Forrest Gump, The Shining.
The Shining.
Groundhog Day, Hateful Eight.
What do you think? I feel like I'm answering, so I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, I love Groundhog Day so much.
It's good, but like Hateful... I'm torn on this one because Hateful Eight is a good experience. Groundhog Day is, even though it's a Bill Murray comedy movie, you walk away like,
But there's a little bit more than the comedy. Like, and the fact that they had to act out every scene so many times in very subtly different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would go with Groundhog Day too. Yeah.
So good. Memento, Leon the Professional.
That's a tough one because they're both like similar era.
I haven't seen either one.
Probably Memento.
I need to watch this movie. The Prestige, The Deer Hunter. Prestige. Shining, Groundhog Day. I've got Groundhog Day.
The same movie.
I don't want Groundhog Day to. Oh fuck, that's true. Oh my God.
Groundhog Day. Yeah.
I don't want Groundhog Day to win necessarily, but Memento, The Prestige.
The Prestige.
Me too.
It's gonna come down to The Prestige and something. I think that might be
Groundhog Day versus The Prestige.
The Prestige. That's it?
No, it just went to the other side.
Oh my God. Shannon, we don't have time for this.
What are we at?
An hour and 8 minutes.
Okay.
It's going to be like another 30
I think
minutes.
It's got to be part 2.
Next week on Hypercritical.
We'll come back to it.
We're going to do the other side of the bracket.
And in the meantime, I'm gonna challenge myself to watch.
Prestige won that side of the bracket.
It did.
What we're saying. So
I'm gonna watch every movie on the other side that I have not seen.
Okay.
I'm gonna watch Memento. I'm gonna watch Leon. Yeah.
There's a lot of movies.
I mean, rewatching Sex and the City right now for the 50th time.
And the movies then.
Oh, Spencer.
Oh my God.
If you knew enough about that show to talk about it with me, it's a good 3 episodes of Hypercritical to debrief on what they've done.
Don't remind her. Don't bring it up. I'm not watching the show.
No, God. I mean, I don't want to have 3 episodes of Hypercritical about And Just Like That and Sex and the City, and Sex and the City there's plenty of more positive than negative. I have probably like 2 things to say about it that are negative, and Just Like That, I am increasingly like, every character doesn't have to be a commentary on sexual expression.
What I do
and
know
inclusivity.
about Sex and the City, the old school original, is that what I have picked up, I'm like, these characters are awful. There's nothing redeeming about it. Like, there's no point where you're like, oh darn it.
No,
they're such great people.
I think with Sex and the City, there's a lot more redemption than in And Just Like That, except for with Carrie. Carrie actually gets better. The other characters, I would say, are reduced to practically nothing, like not even people anymore, but whatever. Or it's so woke, which I'm typically not the person that has a problem with that, but it's like they looked back at Sex and the City from the 90s and they were like, shit,
we fucked up. We got to make amends.
They're like, we had 2 black characters between the entire original series and the movie, literally. And Miranda dates 2
gay characters and they were a joke.
And they were so stereotypically gay men. Nothing really. Well, there was actually Samantha has like a lesbian relationship for a while. But so I get that they looked back and they were like, we need to correct some of this. But they went so far in the other direction. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, every interaction.
We talked about like the overcorrection a few times, but
I still love it
Just
dearly.
let it be a thing. Yeah, like it doesn't have to be a statement. It can just be how it happens.
Every plot point is a statement. It's too much.
Anyway, we'll pick that up next week.
Stay critical.
Why would you say that? So weird.
I almost kicked you in the face just now. Literally, my foot is right here.
We'll be back next week with more Hypercritical, where we'll finish the second half of the bracket. We would like to thank our many patrons for supporting the show. If you enjoyed watching, hit that like button and drop a comment down below. It really helps with the algorithm. See you next week. That's you.
Stay critical. Now you like it. We will, in the meantime, be hypercritical for the next 7 days, just off camera. Right?